In Gregory Ulmer's Avatar Emergency, he extends his theory of electorate practice, explored previously in Internet invention and electronic monuments, to the public sphere. He writes, quote, "The possibility of a new public sphere depends upon the emergence of a new collective identity appropriate to the conditions of the electorate apparatus currently embodied in the spectacle." End quote. Ulmer calls for the invention of a method of public policy formation and decision-making that depends on, quote, "a new metaphysics, a category native to the digital apparatus, and a practice of thought adequate to the toolbox evolving so rapidly within new media culture." End quote. This new metaphysics decenters specialization as the prerequisite for knowledge-making and insists upon a different sphere for problem-solving to occur, not the doctor's office, factory, or even the CEO's office. Our space for decision-making, our, quote, "commonplace Cora," is the Internet. Ulmer replaces decision-making with what he calls, quote, "flash reason, which supports collective epiphany," end quote. Flash reason is a moment in which a group comes together to take action, and thus it, quote, "does not concern opinion, does not operate in the dimension of persuasion," end quote. Rather, it operates in the realm of feeling and affect. In order to have readers undergo flash reason, Ulmer invites them to engage in an exercise that will serve as a heuristic for thinking of flash reason and felt epiphanies. He explains the exercise in this way, quote, "The purpose of the exercise is to get a feeling for flash reason by composing an image commemorating an act of decision, specifically a decision covered by prudence," end quote. It is worth mentioning that Ulmer offers a similar exercise in Internet invention, which I read last fall for a new media class. As I created my story then, I came across the decision points exercise, which asked me to create a symbol for my way of making decisions. I thought about how I make decisions. At heart, I am a terribly indecisive person. I can see the viability of most options, and because I tend to get emotionally involved in my decisions, I sometimes struggle to decide what I find to be the best option. But ultimately, I always reach the point where I must simply let my decision go. I hold on and hold on and hold on, and then I must just make my decision. I thought of cooking. Sure, when baking I must decide how to combine the ingredients, when to follow the recipe, and when to deviate. I went to Publix to get some ingredients for a baking project that would represent the way in which I make decisions. I put in all of the right ingredients, generally follow the rules, and hope for the best. But when I walked into Publix, I was struck by the flower section where an employee was inflating balloons. When I was a child, I loved getting balloons from Publix or from restaurants, and I would cling to the string and watch it, mesmerized, until I got home. There, I knew that I had to release it into the air, but I always did so reluctantly. I would release it to the sky and watch it go until I couldn't see it anymore. For most of my childhood, I believed that the balloons just went on infinitely until someone told me eventually that they popped at a certain altitude. But I would stand there and watch, amazed that something I had held in my hand that I had chosen to release had gone so high. So when I saw those balloons at Publix, I went to ask for a bunch. I asked for pink, my favorite color, and I returned home, where I took the group of balloons outside like I would have as a child to release them into the air. I stood there for a while, remembering how sad it feels to let the balloons go. When I let them go, I watched them fade away into the sky like always, and was still sort of amazed that they could rise so quickly. The release of the balloons represents the way in which I make decisions because it always involves a release of whatever pretense of control I have over a situation. I realize that we are always already out of control, but there is something about making a decision that can make us feel more agentive than we might truly be. My agency is tethered to other things and people at all times, but I feel this most strongly when I make a decision, and it is up to the world to respond. This, I think, also serves as a metaphor for collective epiphany, especially when we consider that Flash reason accommodates decision-making in the form of the internet. Decisions get sucked into the internet just like balloons get sucked into the sky, and it is up to the world to respond how it will. And maybe it is impossible to make one decision on the internet. The balloons are tethered together, and so, perhaps, are our collective choices. As a metaphor for collective epiphany within electricity, these tethered balloons being released to the sky represent togetherness, mutual dependency, lack of control, a releasing of authority, the impossibility of expertise, and the hopeful attentiveness to the response of the world. And perhaps electricity moves us closer to this realization than literacy or orality. Certainly, as we attempt to come to decisions as an electorate public, we must confront what we cannot know about ourselves, each other, and the technologies that we use to connect. Like a child who watches her balloon disappear into the clouds, the electorate avatar acts together, tentatively, uncertainly, and eagerly.